Okay, so let's dive into this. I want to start with something that really kind of blew my mind when I first read it. Did you know that intelligence, like plain old IQ, might actually have a bigger role in romantic relationships than we think? Yeah, not just emotional intelligence or, communication skills, but actual cognitive smarts. Now, before you roll your eyes or start imagining Einstein whispering sweet nothings to someone, let me explain. There's this fascinating study published in Personality and Individual Differences where researchers explored how men's IQ levels might influence their behavior in relationships. And honestly, the findings are kind of wild. They found that men with higher IQs are less likely to be aggressive or manipulative in their relationships. And they're not the only ones. Yeah, less likely to, throw out those nasty insults or, God forbid, engage in coercive behaviors. And here's the kicker. They're also more committed, like really committed, which got me thinking, is intelligence the secret sauce we've all been ignoring in romance? I mean, think about it. How often do we focus on EQ or like whether someone can talk about their feelings? But maybe we've been missing the bigger picture. What if IQ, the ability to think critically, solve problems, and maybe even avoid impulsive reaction is what actually makes someone a great partner? Oh, and speaking of impulsive reactions, one Reddit comment totally nailed it. Brains plus brawn? What do we call that? A platonic ideal. Classic, right? But it does make you wonder, why isn't this talked about more? Like, why aren't we putting IQ tests on dating apps yet? Swipe right for mental level commitment. But seriously, the study has some pretty striking implications. If intelligence correlates with less aggression and more stability in relationships, does that mean smarter men are inherently better partners? Or is there more to it? And just to stir the pot, what does that say about the rest of us who don't score in the genius range? All right, so here's what we're going to do. In this episode, we're going to dig deeper into the study, unpack its findings, and maybe throw in a few spicy debates. Because honestly, this topic, it's like a Tinder profile. Intriguing, but there's more to the story. Let's get started. All right, let's get into it. So this study we mentioned earlier, it revealed that men with higher IQs are apparently less likely to be aggressive or manipulative in their relationships. And I know, some of you are thinking, well, duh, smarter people don't need to act out right. But it's not just about intelligence making someone polite or well-behaved. It's deeper than that. Here's the thing. The study found that these guys were less likely to use partner-directed insults or coercion, stuff like controlling behavior or, let's be real, straight-up toxic power moves. Instead, they showed more commitment to their partners and, get this, reported greater relationship satisfaction. Like, they were happier, their partners were happier, and the whole thing just ran smoother. One Redditor put it perfectly. The smarter the bully, the less likely they are to resort to violence. That's a fascinating and honestly a little unsettling thought. Intelligence might help someone avoid conflict, but could it also make them better at hiding toxic behaviors? Like, are they solving problems or just outsmarting their partner? It's worth thinking about. And here's another spicy angle. Some people argue this whole IQ love connection feels a bit elitist. Are we really saying that smarter people are inherently better partners? If so, what does that mean for the rest of us who don't score genius level on a cognitive test? Or maybe it's not about better or worse, but just different tools for navigating relationships. Think about it. Someone with a high IQ might avoid impulsive decisions, sure, but does that automatically make them more compassionate, empathetic, or understanding? Not necessarily. Intelligence and kindness don't always go hand in hand. That's where things get messy and interesting. So yeah, smarter choices might lead to smarter partnerships, but there's no one-size-fits-all answer here. IQ might be a big piece of the puzzle, but it's not the whole thing. Relationships are messy, complicated, and, let's be real, a little unpredictable. All right, let me grab my coffee real quick. Okay, ready to move on? Let's go deeper. All right, so let's talk about this idea, emotional intelligence versus intellectual intelligence. Which one really drives successful relationships? On one hand, you've got emotional intelligence, which is all about understanding feelings, managing emotions, and communicating effectively. It's like the relationship MVP, right? But then there's IQ, which, according to this study, might be doing a lot more heavy lifting than we've given it credit for. So, which is it? Is it better to feel deeply or think deeply? Well, there's this Reddit comment I read that really stuck with me. Someone said, you can be high EQ and manipulative, basically the poster child of high EQ with no ethics. And that's so true. EQ alone doesn't guarantee kindness or integrity. It's a tool, just like IQ, and how you use it matters. But still, it raises an interesting point. Are relationships about emotional connection? Or are they about the ability to avoid conflict and think ahead? Or maybe, both? Here's another twist. Some people argue that IQ gives you an edge because it helps you avoid situations where you'd even need EQ in the first place. Like, if you're smart enough to steer clear of drama or diffuse a fight before it starts, do you really need to be great at handling emotions? That's a fascinating idea. One that challenges the whole EQ is king narrative we've been fed for years. But let's be real, it's not a competition between the two. Relationships aren't about picking one strategy and sticking to it. The real magic happens when you can balance both. When you have the intellect to solve problems and the emotional awareness to connect deeply. That's the sweet spot. And maybe that's why this debate is so interesting. It's not about which is better. It's about how they work together. So are you team emotional or team intellectual? Or are you, like me, just hoping to figure it all out before your next argument? All right, let's keep going. This gets even more interesting from here. All right, let's wrap this up with the big question. Does intelligence really make love smarter? I mean, it's tempting to say yes, right? The study we've been talking about makes a strong case higher IQ correlates with less aggression, more commitment, and happier relationships. But when you take a step back, it's clear that intelligence isn't the whole story. Love is messy, unpredictable, and a little chaotic. Can we really boil it down to cognitive ability? One of the key takeaways from the study is that smarter people are better at avoiding destructive behaviors. Less manipulation, less coercion, less toxicity. That's undeniably a good thing. But Intelligence alone doesn't guarantee emotional depth, empathy, or even kindness. It's like one Redditor pointed out, you can be the smartest person in the room and still be completely insufferable. and honestly, they're not wrong. IQ might help you avoid fights, but it doesn't automatically make you a good partner. There's also this idea that intelligence might just make people better at hiding their flaws. A smarter person might not yell during an argument, but maybe they use logic to win instead of really listening to their partner. Does that make them better or just better at appearing better? It's a tough call. Relationships require a balance, emotional vulnerability, communication, and yes, a little bit of smarts to navigate life's challenges. But no single quality can carry the whole thing. So where does that leave us? I think it's safe to say that intelligence is a powerful tool in relationships, but it's not the secret ingredient. It's part of the recipe, sure, but so are emotional awareness, shared values, and, let's be real, a good sense of humor. Love isn't an equation to solve. It's a living, breathing thing that takes work, patience, and more than a little trial and error. So, does intelligence truly make love smarter? Maybe, but smarter isn't always better. The truth is, love doesn't care about your IQ score. It cares about how you show up, how you listen, and how you choose to stay when things get tough. And if you ask me, that's what makes it so beautifully complicated. All right, that's it for today. Thanks for sticking with me through this one, the complicated one. I'll see you next time. Same place, same overly complicated questions about life.